Greetings and a traditional welcome to you to this special episode on my book Aparajit, Undefeated. This episode is titled Miracles, Jadoo, what we look for in our lives all the time. 9 out of 10 people will say, I wish this miracle takes place with me. I get so much money, I get my girlfriend back, I get my job back, I get the palatial house. But I'm going to tell you how Vikram saw miracles. He felt them. He could feel them buzzing around him in the 7 years that he was abandoned and left to die. The first one I'm going to talk about is just 2 days before the lockdown, COVID. Nobody knew that on Monday there was going to be a lockdown, but this was a Saturday just before the lockdown. And Vikram was lying on his bed at about 3:30 in the afternoon, counting just days before he thought he would need to leave Mumbai because he had no money left. It was 4:45 and the place of his birth and origin and business was not affordable to him any longer. As he lay back looking at the ceiling on that hot afternoon, his phone started buzzing and there were messages rolling in one after the other. He was wondering who was sending him messages in these days of WhatsApps. And as he picked up his phone, after a long time, he saw that there was money coming into his bank account. And they were large sums. He was taken aback and he started counting because there were about half a dozen of them, of medium-sized amounts. But to him, they were very large at that point of time. After he totaled it, he called his attorney. So they told him, don't look at that money. You don't know who it is. But then, प्यासे के सामने कुआं पड़ा था. So what would he do? He immediately started transferring the money, not heeding to the advice of his lawyers. And after some time, when his limits got exhausted, it turned to be about 4:30. No money was going to be transferred and a large sum was left behind. So he rushed to the bank and requested the manager, which that day was open till 5. And he says, I need to transfer this money. That guy refused. Vikram put his foot down and somehow insisted, played on his charm and got the money or the money token that he wants to transfer it to a follow account, the IMPS or whatever we call it, that afternoon. He would not let them shut the bank until it was transferred. And this was done at 6 p.m., unusual for this bank, although it was private. As he left, he opened his mobile with a sense of relief, with some cash in his pocket after several days, and he found out the money, what's this miracle, was from his enemy's account, the one who owed him money for years and were not paying him. He could not believe his eyes because this was a new account and they had no clue he had that account there. As he stepped out at 6:05, he got a call from the back office of the bank and he says, the customer care person said, this money is not yours. And all he said was, I've spoken to the Lord and you know which Lord I'm talking about. I'm not going to answer you any longer. I'm hanging up, man. And he moved on to face the Monday, which was a lockdown day, with a sense of relief that he would not have to leave this beautiful place called Mumbai. Now, how could this have happened? I can give you several reasons, but for each one they own. But for Vikram, it was an intervention from the Supreme. It was an intervention from the higher energy, the one who cares for his children and his devotees. He saw that. Then what happens? Another miracle. About 2-3 months later, the same situation that he's facing of, being tormented by people who are extremely powerful, billionaires. And he didn't know where his money was. Nobody wanted to return his money. And he gets a call there again. It's 3:30 and it's a bank. And the bank says, you know what? You have borrowed, 4 crores to buy a house. And you have borrowed at about, say, 7%. We'll give it to you at 6.8. Would you like to shift? So he says, where have I borrowed? He thought to himself. And then he says, whom do you wish to speak to? The lady at the other end gave the name. Again, it turned out to be the one that belonged to his enemy. He repeated it. And she repeated the offer. She says, would you like me to get in touch with you? He said, of course, please do. And that led him to a wealth of information that his enemies were using his money to buy apartments in Mumbai at posh Tony areas. The money that he had been asking them to return. And he put on his jacket and put on his finest accent and managed to get access from the bank of the amounts that they had borrowed and laid his hand on wealth which they were hiding for years together. There again, what was his effort? What did he do to get the call? What did he do to get the money? Or what did he do to get the geography of several houses around the area of his choice, which was Jadoo, where he could get food at walking distance, medical care, friends, a beautiful locale where he could rest and relax, being tormented, as I said, by billionaires and extremely powerful coterie of people who could destroy virtually anyone. That too happened, but the most miraculous thing. The greatest miracles take place without you knowing. So Vikram got another miracle in his life. He loved his wife beyond imagination. And when he got to know she had cancer, he completely broke. He broke down. His soul was torn. He was running from temple to church to everywhere to pray for her welfare. And nobody would want to tell him where she was or what she was doing. And they put up a block around him, as they did with all the events, where another miracle took place for the wedding of his son, which I'll tell you finally. But how was he protected from the pain that he would have to face to see his wife passing away? The intervention came, the miracle came, by him being shielded from seeing her. They did not let him see her. At least 100 of them ganged up to make sure he didn't even know where she was. In retrospect, you will see miracles. If you try to see, if you're trained enough, you will see the intervention of the Supreme Lord. And this is how he now realizes, after a year and a half of his wife passing away, that had he seen her going, he would have probably jumped in the fire with her. He would have been lit up with her. He was so attached to her. So was it not a miracle that God, who had decided to take her away, did not let him see her? He might have felt it as torment. It was not. It was protection of a good man. Vikram was and is a good man. And therefore, when his son was getting married and he was not invited, everybody around him was going, he was sitting, and his doctor was trying to save him that evening. He says, you have to go through this night. And guess what happens? He's standing in one of the by-lanes of Bandra. And as he is standing there, having coffee with his cyclist friends who would help him ferry stuff, exactly 7 feet away, he sees the in-laws of his son or his daughter-in-law to be parents carrying loads of gifts, walking exactly 7 feet away. He was under an umbrella, under a shed-like structure from where he could see them, but they could not see him. In one sense, again, this was a miracle. How could just 24 hours be the time apart from the marriage and from this? They were all being ferried to another outstation in Maharashtra, and he was seeing them. So from a distance, he just sent his blessings, which was an opportunity. And where was the miracle? The miracle was that he would have probably been dismembered, insulted, not treated humanely by the same people whom he brought up in the finest of Mumbai. So God has his own ways of protecting you. These miracles, there are about 30 that Vikram has narrated to me over a span of his 7 years which saved him. I've related to you just 4 or 5 to get across to you this special episode with a special feeling and a point to interact with you, that start believing in the right thing, and that belief will come back in several ways. And the final one which I give you is the studio I'm recording at just now is also a miracle, because it's just a distance away, walking distance from where I am. And this itself gives me the ability to communicate more with you, to learn more from you, so that we both remain friends to see miracles and remain aparajit, undefeated, and protected. Thank you.